everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is officially time. I have a few days off from customer cars, so I decided it is time to start ripping and tearing into this 2009 Subaru EJ that I bought from my brother. To understand this video and what we found wrong with the car after we bought it, you need to go back and watch a few videos before this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to start ripping and tearing into it, do head gaskets because we have to pull the motor anyway. It is Tuesday evening. I got off of work late today, so basically Tuesday is shot. I told the machine shop I could have the heads to them by Friday. So normally that wouldn't be that big of a deal, but this is like my side, gig. I still work full time, so I'm in here in the evenings. Okay, so we're up on jack stands now, and it literally looks like the Exxon Valdez wrecked underneath this car. There is a dollar size, like George Washington US dollar size puddle of oil underneath this car, and we literally just pushed it forward, like I would say 45 minutes ago. Coolant is draining, and I guess before we get started too far in this video, I'm going to explain what's going on. I'm going to take you guys along and show you how to pull the engine and to tear down the engine. I guess this is kind of an enjoyable video, but also a kind of how-to video. And something else that I really haven't told anybody yet, so you guys gotta kind of be quiet, is I am looking at becoming an official business. I already have an LLC, but I'm trying to prepare for the raping that Uncle Sam is potentially going to give me at the end of the year. So I have questions about taxes and all that. So I'm kind of not official yet, but I'm looking into it. And the first thing I'm going to do when I become an official business is buy a frickin' lift. So this is a naturally aspirated 2.5. In my opinion, in my experiences, these are definitely a lot easier to pull than the WRXs and the STI engines. Alrighty, so we're going to take a quick look at the right side of the engine. Pretty easy. You've seen the time lapse. I took the air box and stuff off. Back here you got electrical connector. The messiest part of this is going to be your power steering lines. I took the upper radiator hose off. Right here you have your air fuel and your O2 sensor. Those need to be unplugged. And before we fire up the time lapse again, the left side I'll show you real quick. Not too bad as well. Remove the battery. You got your alternator lines, your AC plug-in. Now the messiest part of this side is probably going to be your fuel lines. Please make sure you have a rag over top before you pull these lines off. They could be under some pressure still. Back here you got your starter, your ground, bell housing bolts obviously. You got your vacuum line from your booster. That's pretty much it, to be honest with you. It's really not that bad. The AC compressors on these are kind of a pain in the butt. So you have a bolt right here that needs to come out first, but then you have two bolts back here. You got one right here and one right here that you can't completely take out. The back one hits the manifold, the intake manifold, and this one up front hits the oil dipstick tube. You got to take those out pretty much as far as they'll go, and then you got to pull this 14mm out here, and the AC compressor will come out. They're kind of a pain in the butt. A ratchet wrench is your best friend. So we got to remove the two serpentine belts to get the AC compressor off. Next, I'm going to move on to the fuel lines, and then just a couple odds and ends, vacuum hoses, and like the power wire to the starter, the signal wire to the starter, the ground, stuff like that. Literally a good 25-30 minutes with the correct tools, top end is done. So that is probably where I'm going to stop for tonight because it's late. It's almost 10 o'clock already, and I still have another video. Actually, the video before this one I am editing currently, so I'm going to go and edit some videos. So with that said, I will see you tomorrow.
The next day.
Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you can hear me all right. It's raining pretty hard. Bear with me, I'm moving kind of slow today. I'm kind of whooped. My dad called me at 4:30 this morning, said his truck wouldn't start, so I took care of that, went to the gym like I do every morning, and dummy me decided to do leg day today, so I'm moving kind of slower than usual.
Idiot.
But I'm hoping to have an engine out tonight. Should not be a problem. We should be able to get it out with no issues if everything cooperates and comes out without fighting. Just got to finish a little bit up top, get the exhaust off, motor mount bolts, and basically, flex plate bolts, stuff like that, and it's ready to come out. Before I fire up the time lapse again and start ripping back into the motor, I want to show you guys something. I've had a couple of questions from other Subaru guys on how to remove the fuel lines because they got that little locking tab. Alrighty, so this is a pretty common thing to see. They sell tools that you can go in and It basically pushes in on the tab and you're able to remove the line. I know like tranny lines, fuel lines on other vehicles are, you know, have the same setup, but the problem is, if you can see, you probably can't, this is where it locks onto, but there's another little, hang on. So this right here, this little notch is preventing any kind of tool to get in there to push these tabs in. Like I said, I had a couple of questions about this. Maybe you can see, hopefully you can. If you see the green tab here, the green plastic, there are some notches cut into it. Now, those notches are opposite of where the tabs are. The tabs are on the, well, from my perspective and your perspective, it would be like the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock position. All you do is you take two 90-degree Harbor Freight picks, and as it's on the line, just put these picks in at a 90-degree angle, push the tabs in, and then with a rag, because it might still have some pressure and you know, some fuel might come out, push these tabs in and you can simply pull back on the line. Simple and easy, and you don't destroy the line. So I have pulled so many Subaru engines out that I have learned like tips and tricks to not make messes, make my life easier. So as I find little things, you know, that kind of help me out, I'll share them in the video to maybe help you out if you end up ever pulling a Subaru motor. One thing is the radiator. The automatic transmissions, they have tranny cooler lines that come up and they turn down right in front of the engine here, and they run down. And the lines coming out of the radiator, the rubber lines go in and they have hose clamps, and that's where they mate. But when you undo them, the lines are down, so whatever tranny fluid's in the lines, it leaks all over the place. So a little advice is you buy some cheap eBay or Amazon vacuum plugs, and as you pull the line off, you stuff a vacuum plug on there, and that way they seal up and they don't leak. And on the other end, the radiator end, you just take 2 water bottles or whatever, shove the lines in there, and you won't make a mess. Also, a little tip that could actually save you money is not so much on the naturally aspirated engines, but on the WRXs, the 2-liter WRXs, I guess the EJ series of WRX, and the STI engines. Strongly recommend that you take either the entire header off or the AF sensor, the air fuel sensor that's on the manifold. Take it off, because you will not clear the side of the subframe while pulling the engine. You will damage, I have damaged at least 1, 2 maybe, and I've learned my lesson. Alrighty, so everything is unhooked underneath, exhaust is off. Now I'm going to show you how to unhook or unbolt the flex plate from the torque converter. I think I did this in an earlier video, or a video earlier this year. I showed you guys how to do it, but I'll show you again. Alrighty, hopefully you can hear me okay. The microphone is pointing down, so you have to remove the throttle body, which sits right here, to access this little hole right here that usually has a rubber plug over it, but this one is not. And you need a 22 millimeter to go on the crank. You will rotate the engine around. I have this little Harbor Freight flexible head with a 12 millimeter on it. There are 4 bolts that sit down in this hole. You rotate the engine around, bring up the bolts, and yes, they are normally tight, and you will bust your wrist and whatnot, but it's part of it. I already broke this one loose and busted my wrist. All right, so bolt number 1, there you go. And there's 4 of these total. So we're gonna throw this on it here. We're going to put some pressure on the crank, do this, and I'm gonna, that felt fantastic. Oh yeah. Bolt number 2, 3, and almost there. Bolt number 4. Okay, so those come out rather easy, and I only busted my elbow, so we did good. Alrighty, so all the bell housing bolts are out. They actually didn't fight me too bad. I'm gonna grab the cherry picker, I'm gonna grab the chain, I'm gonna grab the floor jack, and we're gonna pull us an engine out. Oh, and also, I believe that the inventor of CV boot axle grease, like the CV axle grease, has a chair right next to Satan in hell. So the engine is out, but I found something that I'm not too sure about. And I think I know why. Now I know why the engine came out so easily. The flex plate, right there, it has pink paint marker on it. And the only time you see paint marker on the backside of an engine is when it's a junkyard engine or something like that. A salvage engine, whatever. That sucks, because I just went through all the service records on the Carfax, and there's not really any big gaps in the service records, and everything is documented from since the car was new. So not too sure how I feel. I'm not sure about that. So earlier in the video, how I was taking the flex plate bolts off and I said it was missing that little rubber cover, that little rubber plug. Well, it's right there underneath the intake. So this engine has been out before, and it was not documented on the Carfax. Yeah, so I don't know how many miles are on this engine or anything like that. I'm gonna clean up a bit, and there is a mouse right there running. You are going to die, sir. We're gonna quit for tonight. I'm gonna clean up the shop a little bit, and tomorrow we're gonna start ripping into her and take her down to a short block, and I'm hoping I can get the heads resurfaced on Friday so we can start putting it back together. That mouse. So until tomorrow.
The next day.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you all had a fantastic Thursday. Mine was okay, besides being stupid sore from the gym yesterday. But not so good news today. I called the machine shop and they are like a week plus booked out. So even if we do get this apart tonight, I'm not going to be able to get the heads back for at least a week or so, which kind of sucks. Before we start digging in on that engine, I have a little bit bigger engine that I have to attend to. My dad's truck needs an alternator real quick because it's overcharging and then undercharging, overcharging, undercharging. So we're going to take care of that engine, and then we are going to start digging into that engine. Alrighty, so alternator is done, and I ran the truck back to mom and dad's, went in and changed clothes because it's actually a little warm out. It's really nice out, and while I was in changing clothes, the car part fairy came. So I decided to give Felpro another shot. It's been a long time since I've used Felpro head gaskets, and the last time I did, I used them on my 97 Legacy GT. That basically they only lasted about 75,000 miles, if that. But I was also young and dumb and didn't do things correctly. Like I didn't take the heads to the machine shop, so I'm guessing it's mostly my fault. And they are a OE fix according to Felpro, and it's a triple layer steel head gasket. So we're gonna throw these in, and hopefully they last much longer than the car. All right, it's time to start digging into her. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the power steering pump off, the alternator off, the intake off, move to the front, take the timing belt and components off, drain the oil, flip it upside down, take the manifold off, and then probably pull the heads off. And then once the heads are off, I'm gonna fix the oil pan gasket. To be honest with you, tearing into a Subaru engine is really not that hard. You need an 8mm, a 10mm, a 12mm, a 14mm, and a 17mm. Now there might be a couple oddball sizes that are not factory, but for the most part, those are what you need to tear most of this engine apart. Now if you have any questions, please comment. I will answer your question in the comments. If you have any questions on how I did something, why I did something, order of operations, whatever, please ask your question in the comment and I will answer the best I can. So I told you guys earlier I would stop the video and give you guys pointers, stuff to look out for, and I found something. It's very common on Subarus, or I guess the EJ series of Subaru. There are 3 bolts that hold the power steering bracket to the block, and these 2 right down here on the block like to strip out, and this one has one stripped out. It's very common. Luckily this one only has 1 of the 2 on the front of the block, so I'm just going to leave it alone and just be very careful, tighten them up. So we're going to continue on. Alrighty, so I think next we're going to drain the oil. That way I can rotate the motor up so we can get the heads off. I'm going to grab another bucket to do that, and then move my weed and grass killer antifreeze. I mean, I'll properly dispose of this later.
Oh, okay, sure.
Well, that's fantastic. I wanted to reuse this oil because I just literally put it in the engine, but I rotated the engine up on the jack or on the stand, like, you know, 45 degrees or so, and there is literal sludge coming out of this oil pan. I stuck my finger in the old hole there, and yeah, there is a bunch of sludge sitting on the bottom of the oil pan. So we're gonna have to clean that out, and I'm about to spend another $45. Alrighty, we're gonna get to know each other a little bit, and you're probably gonna see my boob a lot. So we are gonna take this head off together. Basically, the first thing you want to do is look around the head, make sure that take off any accessories that need to be removed, like your old dipstick tube is going to need taken off. One thing you do have to take off of this head, the left side head, when you take the intake off, is your EGR tube that goes up to your intake. Throw that back in there. All right, we're gonna take your valve cover off. You got 6 10mm bolts. Now, one of the nicest things about doing the single overhead cam versus the dual overhead cam is all this crap here can stay on. On the dual overhead cam, you have to remove the cams and the buckets and everything before you can get to the head bolts. On the single overhead cam, you can get to all 6 head bolts nice and easy. So none of the valve train has to be taken apart, which is very nice. Yeah, so doing a single overhead cam is actually pretty boring to watch. It's not too in depth. Now, to remove the head bolts, it is a 14mm 12-point socket, and I strongly recommend breaking them loose with a breaker bar instead of an impact. So we're gonna break these loose in sequence to an extent. I guess we're gonna go opposite, just to break the torque evenly across the head. Yep, moving the camera, sorry. All right, now that they are broke loose, we're gonna go ahead and zing them out with the impact. So it's still looking pretty good. All right, there you go, a Subaru head bolt. And if you're doing head gaskets on a turbo, like a WRX or an STI, I usually convince the customer or ask the customer to put head studs in it instead of head bolts, just because, the WRX or the STI, you're gonna beat on it eventually, so just the added protection of head studs versus head bolts. All right, here we go. We're gonna pull her off. There we go. We got separation. All right, pull the head gasket. This is definitely the original. This is the original head gasket. Around the cylinder, it looks pretty good, but these later generation EJ253s like to leak oil from here, from the bottom. And it looks like it's got some buildup, and it possibly could have been on the verge of leaking very soon. So good thing we did these. Yeah, so this one looks good. Nothing that concerns me. So it looks like it's just gonna be a routine head gasket job. No problem. I'm gonna get the heads machined, obviously. So we're gonna have a good mating surface, a good even mating surface when we put the new head gasket on. I think we're gonna be all right. I don't think, at least on this side, the left side, the cylinders look good. So I'm gonna pop the right side off and possibly, it's getting late, possibly do the oil pan tonight. I'm not sure yet. Alrighty, so got the right side off. This one kind of concerned me a little bit. So if you ever taken a head off or like taking head bolts out, you kind of have that spongy feeling right before they crack loose and they go. This one seemed like all 6 of them seemed to have a little more spring in their step there. So it took a lot more. It probably took about 40, I'm gonna say right around 45 degrees, 40 degrees of the breaker bar to break them loose. So this one concerned me a little bit. I know I'm gonna clean all the holes out very good, just like at your mom's house.
Oh, that's not right.
I'm gonna clean all the holes out and make sure they're clean, and then I'm gonna use the ARP, the fastener lubricant that I use on head studs on the new head bolts, so hopefully we don't have any thread issues. So I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go in and get some dinner, maybe play some Forza. So We're gonna pick back up. Actually, I don't really know where we're gonna pick. I'll do the oil pan with you guys. I'll probably take that off and we'll redo that. But as for like the heads, like I said, I'm gonna get them, you know, strip them the rest of the way down, and we'll get them in the machine shop and get them back as soon as possible.
One eternity later.
Alrighty, so we is back. So what you just seen was Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I did a full detail on a car. Yesterday, Tuesday, I dropped the heads off at the machine shop. And then today, we are going to rip into the oil pan, reseal it, and clean the block up a little bit. That way, when I get the heads back, we can throw head gaskets on and start buttoning everything back up. So interesting story about the machine shop ordeal. I'll tell you briefly what it is. So I called a shop in town, like an actual nice business shop, your repair shop, and I called them like, hey, do you guys have a machine shop you guys use to resurface heads when you do head gasket jobs and all that? And they're like, wait, you still resurface heads? We just clean them up and put them back on. And I'm like, what?
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
So I called a machine shop that's a little bit farther away, and they're a very reputable machine shop, engine builder. They do sprint car engines, all kinds of engines. I know they do like modified sprint cars, late model engines, stuff like that. I called them, are like, yeah, they're nuts, bring them in, we'll check them, redeck them, resurface them, the whole deal. They were like, yeah, we always machine heads because there are some things, imperfections that feeler gauges and straight edges will not pick up. So heads are there, hopefully getting them back tomorrow. But in the meantime, we're gonna start ripping into an oil pan. So I'm not gonna flip the engine over and pull the oil pan off because what I said earlier in the video, that there is a lot of sludge in the bottom of the oil pan. When I stuck my finger in there, it was nice and sludgy. So I'm gonna take the oil pan off without turning the engine over, so I'm just gonna pull it down. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far. It is Wednesday, it's hump day. I should have done this last night, but I took last night off after we got home from the machine shop because I got a very busy weekend coming up. Got at least another full detail coming in, and actually yesterday I got contacted about doing a clutch on a Honda Civic. So shop is busy, shop is very busy. All right, we'll go ahead and flip this around. That way everything drains out of it, right onto my floor. So I don't know how well you can see this, but I'll stick my finger in here. Yeah, that is sludge. That is not oil. That is like thick molasses sludge in the bottom of the oil pan. Got the block cleaned up. The amount of goo and sludge in this engine is just absolutely ridiculous. I know it's been sitting for 2 years with probably the below Walmart grade oil in it. After removing the oil pan, also I can see why it was leaking. There was very minimal gasket material left around the entire oil pan. So I got the oil pan all cleaned up. Mating surface on the block is all cleaned up. Throw some ultra gray on it, seal it back up, and definitely gonna have to do a couple of flushes. I'm gonna say probably in the first 100 miles change the filter, and then in 500 miles I'll change the oil again just to give it a good flush. I didn't realize I had crap all over my face when I was filming this. Alrighty, so oil pan is up and tight. Got a nice light layer of silicone on the oil pan and the block. That way when you sandwich them together, you get a nice bead of silicone around that seals everything up. You don't want to put a big gob silicone on the oil pan then try to sandwich it to the block. Otherwise, there's going to be a whole tidal wave of silicone that, you know, on the outside. And if you have a bunch of on the outside, it's also going to be on the inside, and if you do have excess silicone on the inside, it could break off and clog stuff, and then you have no oil pressure. I'm going to go grab a drink of water real quick, and then we are going to clean the block up. Luckily, this block is not too bad. Okay, I got the block all cleaned up on both sides. Took me about 45-50-ish minutes, no big deal. I got the bolt holes for the head bolts cleaned out as well. I'm gonna clean up everything again tomorrow with some brake clean and a nice clean microfiber rag before I put the head gaskets on. But yeah, hopefully I get a phone call tomorrow. We can start assembling everything, and I'm really hoping that he can have it by this weekend, but we'll see.
The next day.
Look, we got heads, so big shout out and big thank you to Calvinator Engines. I'm going to clean everything up once again, just a quick wipe down, and we're gonna start assembling us an engine. So I guess it's time for a time lapse. This is lovely. This is lovely. And like I said earlier in the video, I decided to give Felpro another shot. And I guess I'm not going to be using Felpro anymore. So I decided to order new head bolts. And yes, they are Felpro. So let me show you. So this is a head bolt that came out of the engine. Watch the top here. See that? It's a little wobbly because it's in the socket. But let me switch to the Felpro head bolt that I just got all lubed up and ready to go back in. Here we go. Much as I don't want to, I'm going to have to probably reuse the head bolts that were in it. Which sucks. I mean, they should be okay, but not ideal. Okay, so other head is on and tight. Actually went pretty smooth. Like I didn't have anything that went, you know, give you that feeling. If time allows, I like to leave everything sit overnight, you know, at least 12, 24 hours or so, and then go back and I guess recheck the torque on each head bolt. I did that with my 6-liter. Basically every car that I do where I remove the heads and put, you know, fresh head gaskets on, I like to double check everything after it sits a while. Especially having to reuse these head bolts. Subaru head bolts are not torque to yield, so they should be okay. Cross my fingers, and not my, like I said, not my first choice. I'll come back out tomorrow. First thing I'll do is I'll recheck the torque on the head bolts, and we'll start throwing everything back together, and then possibly sit it in tomorrow.
The next day.
So I don't remember where I left off last night. The engine is in now, but the only thing, it's just sitting down in there. It's got 2 bell housing bolts holding it in because after I sat it down, I spent way too long trying to find this power steering leak because the entire rack is just covered with fluid. I cleaned it up and then came in today. I found out where it's leaking. I took it's basically where the high pressure line goes down from the pump into the rack. Took it out, cleaned it up, put it back in. We'll see. It's an aftermarket rack. It's probably one of the cheapest racks. It's a Dollar General rack, it looks like, so it's leaking everywhere. So I'm really hoping that this car rolls out under its own power tonight. Alrighty, here we are. I'm gonna put the battery back in it. I'm gonna put some fresh oil in it, put some fresh coolant in it, and then we're gonna fire it up for the first time. All right, here we go. Live action, first time. Gonna do a couple key cycles to get fuel pressure. All right, here we go. Oh, the battery is really dead. Okay, well that's why. It's on freaking 2 amp charge maintain, not jump start. So, okay, try this again. Take 2. Come on, battery. It won't do anything. Oh, this freaking battery. Okay, I don't know if this is take 4 or 5, but battery is completely shot, and I keep getting an SD card error on the GoPro, so it keeps randomly cutting out my video. So I apologize if it just, you know, shuts off. So let's see, we have some juice now. Ooh, there we go. Come on, baby. Ooh. Perfect! All right, sweet. So shut it off real quick. I wanted to check the water and the oil again because we literally drained the entire engine of oil. It had oil pressure, yes, when we started it, but I'm gonna check it again, and I'm gonna go ahead and top off the power steering fluid, or the ATF in the power steering fluid system, whatever. She's been running for about, I don't know, about 15 minutes or so. Running like a little baby kitten, purring like a little baby kitten. Yeah, still got a pretty good air bubble in the cooling system because the heat is not actually turned warm yet. But the bottom radiator hose is still cold, so the thermostat hasn't opened. I'm gonna sit here, let it idle, clean up the shop a little bit, probably get it on the ground and take it for a quick test drive. All right, look, there's nothing there. She's out there idling, purring like a kitten. That air bubble fought me like a lot. Well, air bubbles, I'm guessing it's plural, but yeah, I spent like 10 minutes like pressing the hoses, getting everything worked around, but finally the heat started to come in and sitting there idling and not overheating, maintaining temp. So before it gets too dark, I'm gonna take it for a test drive, probably go down to mom and dad's and back, and we'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. Fingers crossed we don't have any leaks, we don't overheat. Hopefully it goes pretty smooth. Cruise is set at 60. Got hot heat, driving straight, sounding good. Went to mom and dad's, let it idle for about, I don't know, about 10-15 minutes or so on my way back home. Alrighty, so she's been out there idling for about 10-15 minutes now. I'm gonna let it idle as long as possible to get that gas drained out of there. Temps are good, drove good, set the cruise, no problem whatsoever. So far so good. I did hear a little bit of, I wouldn't say a whining, but a little bit of a funky noise from, it sounded like the left front, I believe the tire. Could be the tire, I don't think it's a wheel bearing, but that's the only thing that's concerning me right now, which is good. So like I said, I'm just gonna clean up the shop. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. It was kind of jumpy, it was kind of long, kind of sporadic. I apologize, but it's kind of, you don't do a engine build in one day. Yeah, so like I said, I'm just gonna clean up the shop a bit and kind of take it easy for tonight. I really appreciate everybody for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the videos. This one was kind of jumpy because it was kind of a long process, but I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Please comment. I love answering comments. We really do appreciate the love and support we get on the channel. Our channel is growing. Thank you very, very much. So with that said, please like and subscribe, and I think we will see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you for watching.
Please like and subscribe.
Be sure to check out her Etsy account, The Sweetheart Design, for custom illustrations, vinyls, and t-shirts. She can make anything you want.
And use code BOOSTIN_DC on jacksbox.com for 15% off.